Okay. Now we finished Perek Rishon of Tomer Devorah, which, as mentioned many times, is the Perek most people learn. We also learned it. The difference is we're going to go further, but before we do, I wanted to go over some kind of a sikum of everything that we learned, which is not easy because something we spent probably about 35 hours on, it's hard to do in about 20 minutes to get through. But nevertheless, I don't want to go away with just being like a blur in the air. So a little bit, feel free to recall more than I can recall of the learning here. We're going to stress the Benom L'Chavera of it. So the yesod of the Perek Rishon, the introduction to everything, was that people, the way I understand it, is that people often say, I'm only human, what am I supposed to do? So the main premise of the Sefer is that only human is a very, very big thing. It's not small to be human, because human means that you were created b'tzelem Elokim, and we have kochos which are far beyond anything that we realize or that's natural to have. It's true that if you just go with what's comfortable and what's easy and what's natural, then we're only human. But there is something within us which allows us to go mamish to a godly level.
So only human and then another Madrega Yisrael, or only human and Yisrael is one who is Yorish, not Madrega?
Well, I mean, yes. Only human was the intention of a human. So let me explain the way I understand it, is that a human was created not as a end user to the Bria, like, okay, here's the whole Bria, now go ahead and use it. It's yours. L'avda, l'shamra. But l'avda, l'shamra, if you think about it, that was the Tzivoy Ta'ada Marishan and Gan Eden. L'avda, l'shamra was that you are now the finishers, like when you build a building, so you have all the construction, the inside, the outside, the tashdit, but then you have the finishers, so we're so we're the finishers, we're to make sure everything is down, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu left room for us to create, so we're part of the creative process, we're not just the users of creation. I always think to myself of Cook. Cook says that a person creates a beautiful piece of art if you have that koach to be an artist. So you're doing you're finishing off Hashem's work. You're putting something very beautiful on a canvas. That's you're making the world more beautiful. So it's true in paintings. It's true in b'niyah. It's true in mostly true in our own midos. So there's something that we can do which is much stronger than what's natural for us to do, and that's what we're being pulled at. The Ramchal says, I mentioned many times, that a person is ein bein adam l'malach. There's not a big difference between people and malachim, meaning that the purpose of malachim is to help Hashem, whatever that means, in the entire bria. I don't pretend to understand why Hashem needs help, but wants to kill people. There's a Balach HaBavos, wants to help people. There's a Balach HaRefuah, Balach HaBris. There's Balachim, hundreds of Balachim that we know about. And a person's also a Balach. A person's also here to move in the Bria of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Ramchal says that Ein Bein Adam L'malach El L'Adam Yesh Bechira Chavshis L'malach Ein Bechira Chavshis. So there's a higher level, an executive level of helping HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Bria. So we have to see ourselves that's really the premise of the Sefer, to see ourselves in a completely different way, not just as this is what we're supposed to do as the end of after the whole Bria is created, but actually helping the Bria become what it's supposed to be. What is the Bria supposed to be? It's supposed to be Malchus Hashem. From a Kabbalistic point of view, it's Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod Yisod, Malchus. But even from a non-Kabbalistic point of view, simply understood, the world was created to be a Mishkan for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's why we're told in Parsha Shmos and Sefer Shmos to build a Mishkan. That's why David HaMelech wanted to build a Beis HaMikdash, and that's why we're davening for a Bayis Shlishi. The whole idea is that Malchus Shalchahi L'Ol Be'atiblach, and it's by acting in a godly fashion that we're making the whole world. That's what we're davening for with Mashiach, that the whole world should act in a godly fashion. Therefore, lo yisa goy el goy cherev. There'll be honesty, there'll be integrity, there'll be spirituality. It's not about everybody being religious. It's about everybody fulfilling the purpose, the raison d'etre of the world. That's what it's all about. So that's what we can do if we understand that we're not just, I'm only human. That's a big job. Being human is a big job. It's a big position, and we have to take it in that seriousness.
Is there a greater difference between a human and a malach beyond the Brera Chavshis, in that the malach can only is given an assignment and he has to fulfill that assignment? The human being actually has creativity, and which the malach does not. I mean, that's.
But we also have a tachlis. We each have a
Much higher,
tachlis.
maybe that goes together with the Bechir Chavshis, meaning it's a much higher executive position, lower on the chain, but because we have this very what's the word I'm looking for? We could go in many different directions, not just like a malach that has one thing. So it requires executive decision making power. So it's yes. The answer is I agree with you 100%. There's much more to it of being an adam, but there's something more fundamental for us than to understand what it means to be a basar v'dam, what it means to be a creation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not that it makes us holy. Maybe it does make us holy, but that's not the point. The point is not that we're holy. Maybe malachim are holy, maybe they're not. I don't know what's holy, what's not holy. Holy means, the taich of kadosh means that I'm biyachid myself for a particular purpose. So if something is hektish, I can't use it for other purposes. It's hektish. We're hektish in the sense that we have a purpose in the world, and that's to finish off the malchus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, it's very interesting, just to move right along here, that what the Tomer Devorah focuses on, if you look at all 13 midos of Hashem, which are usually called, let me mention this, the 13 midos of Hashem, people think about Hashem, Kel Racha V'chanu L'Erecha Pai V'Rav Chesed, the 13 midos, which Hashem was Megala to Moshe Rabbeinu, but here the Tomer Devorah decides not to use those wonderful Chumash words that we say over and over again on Saras Yemei Tshuva and on Yom Kippur, but to talk about the words that are not so well known of Micha Hanavi, who reviewed it in his own language. Why? Why don't we just go to the Makor? And the answer is because one is talking about Hashem, and Micha is not, and saying, okay, well, we could try to act godly, but let's call it in Kabbalistic language to make it easier. Yisarusa de la'elu. This is the energy from above. Micha Hanavi, at the end of all the Nevi'im, is talking about it from our point of view. This is he's telling the people in his generation that this is what we need to do. It's not for Hashem to do. Hashem Kel Racha V'chanu. It's for us to do. And by us doing this, can you imagine if everybody would do like nothing else, not Shabbat Mitzvos Me'noch, not Taryag Mitzvos, but everyone in the world would keep the first Perek of Tomer Devorah. Cool. For sure there would be a geula, because that means everyone's walking around in a godly fashion. What does it mean to be not walking around like God, but the gaiva of God, but walking around with the anivus of God, meaning that we have a Hashem made a world, He had a purpose in the world. We're part of that. We're part of fulfilling that purpose. The only reason we're created. You can have a good time along the way, but that's basically the only reason why we're created. Like you could have, if you put yourself in an executive position, you could have a good time in the business class lounge or something. But the fact is, that's not the purpose of the trip. The purpose of the trip, that's a benefit. The purpose of the trip is not v'yasafta degonecha v'siroshcha v'yitzarecha. The purpose of the trip is to make malchus in this world, and to be the exalted malach, the malach on speed. You know, the malach that has the bechir chavshis and is multitasking and multifaceted, and that's what we have to do. He surrounds the whole sefer. This can mean so many things. It can mean so many things to our tachlis, but the whole parakrishan is all about, if you come right down to it, it's all about forgiveness. It's all about if we're hurt by somebody or by a group of people, and in order to, that must be the most difficult thing to do, to truly forgive. It means probably the way I understand it is like the Medrash Rabbah says in Bereshis, that tshuva u'maisim tovim is the tachlis of Brias Ha'olam. Tshuva u'maisim tovim. Why is tshuva the purpose of the world? Tshuva is what you do when you do something wrong. But the point is that everything can be turned into something good. So even if somebody does something wrong, it can be turned into something good. This is difficult. It's easier to kiss the mezuzah or to even give tzedakah than it is to the Kabbalah of forgiveness is very, very complicated. Because what that means is everything's fine until I'm hurt. But once I'm hurt, it's like sort of a different din. I'm exempt from, I'll be nice to everybody. You don't expect me to be nice to her or to him or to, like that's ridiculous already. I'm hurt, right? And I have to teach that person a lesson. So this is really, this is the standard of who I am. I'm not going to be a fool. So this is really the ultimate in godliness. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is B'kabel Tshuva. And so the ultimate in godliness is to be able to act this way even when hurt. So we could be the wounded soldier, but the fact is that we're still there and helping even the person who wounded us. And there has to be some reason for that, because we can't be fools. So there has to be some reason for that, and that's the essay. That's the treatise of the 13 Midas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why does Hashem accept our tshuva? Why? Nice guy. Is that what it is? Or HaKadosh Baruch Hu understands that an avera with tshuva is unto itself a way to grow. There is no, like we could give a little bit of covet to people that are just born like tzadikim and they never do anything wrong. We give a little bit of covet, but the real covet goes to the people that go through trials and tribulations and difficulties and challenges, and they come out on top. That's the real Baal Tshuva, and that's the real Makom Shabali Tshuvaim Domain Tzadikim Gemor Michal Lamed Shem. It's a different point. So that's the Tzelem Elikim of it. So the first midah, if you just flip through the sefer with me, have a sefer. First midah was Mikel Kamocha, and Mikel Kamocha speaks. Again, I apologize for the briefness of going through I really apologize for the Tomer Devorah, because we spent so much time trying to understand both the theology of this and the practical aspect. But we can understand it. That the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is called in Kabbalistic Sfarim the Melech Ne'elav, the Sovel Elbain. And the pshat in that is that we find that Hashem creates people and energizes them. Every second, everything that we do is being energized by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We can't do anything without Hashem's energy, even in Avera. So how does that work out? That we do an Avera, and a person goes to be Mechal Shabbos, God forbid, and the HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps going. A person goes to eat treif and their throat doesn't get struck. So it's not just free choice. It's okay. You made a choice, you made the wrong choice, but it's something more than that. That the only reason why our body works and digests and is able to move and to carry and to do is because Hashem gives us that koach. So He's giving us the koach even while we're doing the avera, haflu v'fela. And why does He do that? So that's called the Melech Ne'elav. It's obviously a mashal. Hashem can't get insulted per se, but it's something that we can understand. The Lashon B'nai Adam, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's a very offensive, the offended king. It's a very offensive idea for somebody to bite the hand that feeds you, to have your hand bitten by the person who you're trying to feed. But what's the Omek HaDavar? What's the Omek HaDavar? The Omek HaDavar is not to enable people to do things wrong. That's not what the limud here is. To be an enabler is a bad thing. But the Omek HaDavar is that a person like Hashem has a standard. And my standard is a good standard. So it really doesn't make any difference if you're reacting appropriately or you're not acting appropriately. If this is the right thing to do, I'm going to do it. Meaning, if you're let's say you're a zookeeper, let's say, so you put the alligator takes a snap at you, They say, well, the darn alligator, I'm not going to feed him anymore. You have to come up with a new chap. But your job is to feed the alligators. That's probably a bad example for humanity, but to pick your own choice, pick your own example. The point is that if I'm doing something, if I'm doing chesed because I like the reaction I get, I think that's why most of the time I do chesed. You like the reaction. You do a chesed, make people happy. You do a chesed, they become closer to you. Good for shalom bayis to do chesed, but that's not really the godly reason to do chesed, because that's all selfish. At the end, the reason to do chesed is because that's my job. My job is to be a type of a person that's sharing with other people. So now, once I know that that's my job, your reaction is not it's koveya whether I'm doing it or I'm not doing it.
Relevant.
Relevant. Yeah, it's irrelevant. Totally irrelevant. It's not pleasant, but it's irrelevant that a person is not appreciating it, and it's irrelevant even that a person is using the koach that I'm giving him against me. It needs work, and it needs training, but one can't give up at such a time, because if Hashem would give up, then none of us would be here. He would not have destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, he would destroy the entire world. It would have gone too far.
Sorry, is the person allowed to stay hurt? I mean, not intentionally. but
Allowed to what?
To stay hurt. You know, if he's hurt, but he overcomes the desire to take revenge, but he's still hurt.
I think that, like the Shulchan Aruch, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch says at the beginning, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch learned at school as kids, but it always stuck with me. One of the few things that always stuck with me is that, a person, let's say, al banav u'bnei beisai, create a certain, like that's not right, a certain anger, it's fake. It's a pretend. It's not a deep thing inside. Deep inside, you can't get angry at our kids. When I first became, to say a personal story, I first became a rabbi. I was 22, 23, rabbi of a shul, and I felt like a punching bag. like everybody. I mean, it was just like amazing. Like I was never in such a vulnerable situation in my life. I mean, thank God over the years I've learned to ignore it, but it was an amazing thing. But I remember going to my Rebbe, Rav Scheiber, and I was like, look, these people are sensitive. If you say one thing wrong or one thing that they don't like, so he said, look, if they were all tzadikim, they wouldn't need you as a rabbi, right? Like the whole point is to be able to tolerate that and to try to help. It's something which takes years, to try to.
I'm not sure. Meaning, I think what the Rebbe was saying, if I may, like on yourself, you should not stop. The reaction is irrelevant to yourself. But yes, there is a point where you should stop doing chesed with another person. So Baruch Hu technically also punishes.
That's what I'm saying. As a chinuch issue,
so to us, is irrelevant. But you're allowed to stop doing chesed. Somebody who is not appreciative, who fights back to you, bites.
Not if the person needs chesed. Meaning, let's say there's a poor person who needs food, and they're biting your hand while you're feeding them. You don't walk away from them. Give it to them when they're not looking. Yeah, that's what Hashem does. Hashem is a matan b'seiser. Because if it's in public, you're embarrassing the person. And, there's so much dynamic there. So the answer is no. You're not allowed to stop doing chesed unless the person, for some reason, doesn't deserve chesed. But if it's a reaction, the other person can't be kovei in my reactions. That's the first of the 13 commandments here. Is that we can't react. I said the story probably 10 times during this libud that another one of those things that I became part of my Weltanschauung was that the Chazon Ish witness was walking down the street in Bnei Brak, and he witnessed some people making fun of or yelling at some yeshiva bachrim. The politics of Eretz Yisrael, especially in the 1950s. There they are, not the Arabs. So one of the guys, yeshiva bachrim, got so angry that he socked the other guy in the face. He punched him. Jewish pride. So the Chazon Ish told him. Chazon Ish called him over, and he said, "But what kind of way is that to react? You should react like a Ben Torah." So the person said, "Okay, so how's a Ben Torah supposed to react?" So the Chazon Ish said, "A Ben Torah doesn't react." a mature act. It's not the whole idea of having the presence of mind, of knowing that I'm going to do the right thing, like Hashem. We don't want him to react. Now he might react from a chinuch point of view, but it, we don't, or for that's for the good of the person. But it probably wasn't for the good of the person to punch him across the face. You can argue, I guess.
In Rabbi Nachman's Torah's Vav, he talks about mevatling yourself to the covet of Hashem. And that's really what it is.
Very similar. Yeah. Very, the same idea. Okay.
How do we reconcile calling Hashem a melech hanelav with El Nekamot Hashem, El Nekamot Hashem?
So that's a good question. We discussed that. Why isn't, or asked the question differently, why isn't Nekama part of acting like Hashem? So the answer is because we can't do Nekama like Hashem does Nekama. Nekama of Hashem is completely selfless. It's Nekama, Rashi says, Nekama Hashem is L'saber Soisen. It's just something which it looks like a tit for tat, but it's not a game. It's not a game. It's a creation of the Bria. No Seyavon, he carries our Avera. What does it mean to carry our Avera? So much, again, has to do with forgiveness, and so much has to do with tolerance, patience. That no Seyavon, the way I understood, carries our Avera, Lefi the Tomer Devorah, is something like a person who's done business with the bank for years and years, and has always been good with their bills and paying their mortgages and all the stuff, and then all of a sudden falls and can't. So there is a concept in the English language of the bank carries him. Because we realize that you're a good customer, realize you're not a bad person, realize that you want to go through a hard time. We'll carry you for a few months, interest only, whatever the deal is. But there's a different yachas. The point is there should be in a normal world.
Only if you owe a lot of money.
A little
bit of money.
That's right. A little bit of money you just like to.
Or collateral.
But isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting that but in the world the way it should be, in the business world the way it should be, there should be a human element to it and an understanding that it's temporary insanity or difficulty going through a difficult time. Everybody goes through a difficult time. Obviously, there's a limit to it. With Hashem, there's no limits.
It's a human business. So that's just, It's a human business.
Right, human business. So no Seyavon. I just want to review one of the things that we learned. The Gemara says that there are three different sort of negative things that the Gemara always talks about. There's the Yetzer Hara. We all know Mr. Yetzer Hara. There's the Satan. They're sometimes used interchangeably. There's the Baal Chabavas. So the Gemara comes out with a Zog. Who Yetzer Hara, who Satan, who Baal Chabavas. All the same thing. How's it the same thing? Yetzer Hara, Satan, Baal Chabavas. We would want the Gemara to differentiate them for us. That would be more of a service. But to say that it's all the same thing, what does that mean? It's all the same thing. So I explained from Rav Hutner, so that's how, that the pshat is that when somebody sees something outside of them which is wrong and thinks, oh, I'd really like to do that, how would that be? How would that be to eat that fruit? How would that be? So that's Yetzer Hara, back and forth, it is worth it, it's not worth it, I'm going to get in trouble, I'll eat it, but then I'll be sorry. But it's all in a bechina of outside of you. It's just fantasizing. It's just considering. It's just looking at something which is outside of you. That's the Yetzer Hara. Let's say you go ahead and eat the fruit. You do it. You do the Avera. Whatever choose your Avera. You don't have to say it out loud. Just choose your Avera. So let's say you go ahead and eat the forbidden fruit. So now the Yetzer Hara has become a son. You take it. The Yetzer Hara b'chutz is called the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara b'fnim is called the Satan. Satan is the real translation of a Satan is a destroyer. Now it's within me, and now that it's within me, it begins to do damage. It's something. It's not outside any longer. So who Yetzer Hara, who Hasatan? We can understand it possibly, or consider it. On a spiritual level, it's like somebody, you drank the Drano. Like you drank, now you were just considering it. Wow, I wonder how that would be to drink some kind of way. You actually drank the Drano. It's a toxin. It's a toxin, and it's destroying the person. So the Yetzer Hara became a sudden, and ultimately it will kill you. Ultimately, humalach hamavis. So it's the same force. Rav Hutner explained the Gemara. It's the same force. It just goes through different
Permutations.
One where it's outside of you, where it's inside of you, one where you're gone. Like it has overcome you. So hu hayetzahara, hu hasan, hu malach hamavis. At a human level, something that we've all experienced very often, that when somebody does something wrong, if you're a good person, does something wrong, it's almost impossible to live with yourself. So if you insult somebody, if you say the wrong thing, you just couldn't control yourself. If you steal from somebody, if you talk lashon hara about somebody behind your back. So if you're unless you become a hardened criminal, basically it's that yetzer hara to hurt another person. Because it made me feel good for a second to hurt that person, sort of a little revenge there. But it becomes a something, and it starts to completely contradict everything that I have inside. And now I have a war going on inside of me, not outside of me. So who outside, and it can kill you. It can kill you. I mean, it can really, I don't know, kill you like you'll die, but it can kill a big part of you inside. When you just do even a small thing, it just builds and builds. And what happens is, psychologically, I think what happens is this is the worst thing that can happen. One is that you have, not so bad as that you have this tension inside, this inner tension. The worst thing that happens is the cognitive dissonance that comes in where you make it okay. Because you can't live with it in your body, so you just justify it all the time. You want to know why I got so angry and I hit the kid? Because he did this, he did that. So it's one thing. We just can't stand the tension inside. So when you do that, when you've justified it and you made something bad good, then you're dead. That's a dead.
Question is that Hashem's punishment, or is that something I'm doing to
we
myself?
do to ourselves. Now, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do in such a case? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is no seyavod. So that's ki'ilu to a person who's done an aveira to reach inside the person, deep inside the person, and cup out the tension that's going on, the something that's going on. He ingested it. I didn't force it down his throat. He ingested it, but hold that in your hand and don't let it kill him. Why? Dil b'yachzor b'tshuva. To understand that a person didn't, yes, they ate it, and that's that. That's that. Like it's hard to get it out enough. But as opposed to the Drano or whatever toxin you're eating, HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually deals with it and doesn't let it kill us immediately. So it means to say, this is a very deep idea, that if somebody has done something bad to us, let's put ourselves on the receive. Somebody's hurt us. So anybody who hasn't been hurt at some point or another, somebody hurts us. So there's an understanding that there's possibly a great tension that's going on now in the person who hurt us, and if they've rationalized it and they've created a whole dissonance out of it, so that's even worse. So now the question is, how do I react to it? Oh, let him drop dead. That's the normal reaction. He deserves it. But there is a point of helping that person understand what's going on, and try to help the person take it apart and get it back out. This is a very difficult thing. And what does it have to be my job? Go to a church or something? What do you want from me? Go visit your local Orthodox rabbi and help figure out the therapy of contradiction of something therapy. It's a good idea. A new field, something therapy. So the answer is that really the only one who's in a position to help the other person is the one who himself was offended. And it's a very difficult thing, because like when a person's angry, there's no piyus, there's nothing to do, you're just making it worse. So you gotta wait. And it takes a tremendous amount of patience. And then at some point, and you can't rub it in, but at some point, if we can have the maturity to be able to take it for what it is, as a thing. It's just a thing. It's a thing that you ingested. Like we could do what Hashem does, His does, and now help us work that out somehow or another with the brilliance that we all have for other areas of life, take the brilliance and use it to try to show the person that the first thing to say is it's okay. Like, you don't have to rationalize it all. We all make mistakes, and try to get that out. So that's the nosei avod of carrying the person, at least waiting, and not dismissing the person. At least waiting and carrying it. And a good bank will actually help the customer get out of the trouble. That's what a good banker will do. Actually help the person. Let's take a look at this. Let's get an outside look. Maybe you need a little more capital. Maybe you need a little more support. Maybe you got to cut this out. Maybe you got to cut that out. So there's a that's it. So you got to be the bankers of the other people's emotions. So that's the nosei avod, the second midah.
So just to ask as well, we have the Yetzirah, the Satan Makamot, the Sitra Achra is one of those, or is it different?
We're getting there.
Okay. I mean, I remember we discussed it.
Sitra Achra, yeah. But they're all the way to 10. The overall Pesha is moving right along. Overall Pesha passes over the sin. Hashem passes over the Aveira. It doesn't mean he ignores it. Overall Pesha, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu cleanses. Listen, over means to pass over with a Brillo pad. Scrubs the Pesha. And he does it himself. Ki imcha haslicha. Mahi haslicha shehu roiche tza'avayin k'dichsiv ki ibrachat Hashem es b'nois tzion. Zaret di aleichem mayim Torah. It becomes incumbent on the person who was hurt. Part of the as I say, the Kabbalah of forgiveness is to be the one, dafka, who's helping the person get out of the problem of hurting people. It's all against human nature. If you understand human nature on a superficial level, it's all very things that we expect Hashem to do. But it's a like, help me get out of this problem. So if a person did it, I mean, can you imagine, like, somebody, I spent a long time being a prison chaplain. The truth of the matter is that I'm not talking about the bad ones that are in and out and I can't wait to get into jail because they get free food. But people that really feel bad about what they did, there is a significant amount of people. So the truth of the matter is that, they send them therapists, they send them rabbis, they send them priests. Everybody's coming to try to not make the person feel good about themselves. That's not the idea, but try to rehabilitate the prisoner. The only one who really has the koach is the person who was hurt. Because until that conversation takes place, there's not going to be a rehabilitation. Now, you can't blame the person for that one. What do I want to meet my enemy for? Why should I? He hurt me. He hurt my children. Why should I want to meet him? So it's understood. But also to be understood is that person will never get better. So the thing is like this, that if a person has a sincere desire to get better, if it's really sincere, so then it becomes incumbent upon us, the hurt one, to act in a godly fashion and to help the person out by having that conversation.
How do we know? That's the question.
You got to give a person the benefit of the doubt. If they say they're doing tshuva, the klal is like this: that if a person is in pain, if a person says they're admitting to what they did. By the way, just because a person does tshuva doesn't mean that you should let him out of jail. Because you got to really find out, well, why won't this happen again? But that's a different shmooze. We're not talking about why won't it happen again. We're talking about this particular avera. Sometimes this is too much. But most of the time we're not dealing with killers. We're dealing with somebody who took my seat in shul or something. So it's easier to have the conversation.
We can do it again. It's proportional problem.
Then I'll call you.
No, I mean, it's not killing or anything else. If we're talking about the Monsey will be done again, then
I think that sensitive people I just think that sensitive people don't want to be on the outs. They feel bad when they did something wrong. And it's ironic that the only one who could 100 people could say, hey, there's anything so bad, but the only one that's meaningful is the person who was hurt. That's the only conversation that's meaningful. So make a decision. But it's the ultimate chesed to be able to help the person in that regard. Now, the fourth mita is l'sheirus nachlasai. Why do I think I'm not going to get to 13 yet?
No way.
The fourth mita is l'sheirus nachlasai, share basar. And what we learned, chiddush of the recently Arizal, recently Zohar, that particularly with Jews, amongst Jews, that the people are the nerve endings of Hashem. It's a share basar hili. It's like we've all read about twins that never even met each other. That if one gets hurt, the other one feels the pain. We all have this relationship with our children that is that we could call from 5,000 or 8,000 miles away and say, is everything all right? Just a ragesh. It's nerve endings. It's you can't say, well, that was my finger, that was my ears, that was my toes. It's all one goof. So what we're understanding is that there is such a thing as a neshama haklalis. And if you recall, we're looking. This is a well-quoted Kabbalistic concept that there was one neshama, and the neshama was busted into a million different parts, and here we are. And I mentioned when we were learning this that I asked a whole bunch of the Kabbalah that I know, what's the source? I was looking for the Zohar that says that there's such a thing as a neshama klalis. Rav Kook wrote books about it, neshama klalis, but I couldn't find a source for it. Finally, somebody told me it's the Tomer Devorah. This is the source, but it's really, I found actually, it's a Medrash Rabbah, it's in Gracious Rabbah, that when Hashem created Adam, not just in the Gashmi, it's just like we all came from the Gashmias of Adam and Chava, everybody. So, same thing as the Neshama, we all came from the Neshama of Adam and Chava. It's all one Neshama broken up into thousands of pieces. So, means to say that even if there's no connection per se, where there's something about feeling somebody else's pain. And that's an avoda. That's what Hashem does. He feels somebody else's pain, even somebody you hate. Even somebody who's, different nationality or different. So that's the Sheris Nachlasai. And then the fifth.
Jew and non-Jew would be part of the Neshama Klalit?
So there's levels of Neshama Klalis, just like there's levels of family. First cousins, second cousins, third cousins. But yeah, I mean, the real Baal Madrega is to reach out into the entire world. I think there's something to be, it's like sort of a lost art, but to be you have to have been around in the 60s. Anybody here around the 60s? Were you around the 60s? A few of us old people here. I always quote my mother, if you remember, it means you weren't there. But there was a couple of good concepts there. One of them was like to be a sort of a citizen of the universe, a citizen of the world, to the ridiculous point of renouncing your citizenship of any country and then being surprised at the airport where they don't let you travel. What do you mean? So somehow those guys at the airports never became hippies. I don't know why. Somehow they're immune to the whole generation. I don't know what's going on. They're straight people, But
they're in the 50s.
Huh? Because they grew up in the 50s. Can't trust them, right? So, the thing is, there's something about like just feeling not just the pain, but the simcha of people in the world. Like there is this idea of Sheris Nachalosai, of it is sof kol sof, we're all in this together. Now, what I'm just saying personally, we don't have to be like Michigan is with this, but but I sometimes think that we've gone to the complete opposite extreme. That if you're not exactly like me, I Amish don't like you, and I won't daven with you. Even we're both doing good things, like I'm not going to do like it's to do like what they're doing chesed, we're doing chesed, but we're from two miflagot. Like it's so the miflagization of Klal Yisrael is really the opposite of this. And l'dati, if there's any avoda, take it or leave it. I'm just telling you what I think. If there's any avoda that we mamish have to do, besides for being careful about like whether there's bugs in your flour and all that, I'm just 100%. But it's to get rid of these things that divide everybody. Particularly, I mean, if you can't handle the let's say the chilonim, but at least the datim, like I can handle chilonim too. Okay? But at least for people, it's absolutely ridiculous that we've grown so much, Baruch Hashem, and we're so big that like somebody from a certain group once told me, I said, I remember when I was a kid, I told them I was giving them Musar, when you guys like loved everybody. So they say, we were small then. Now grown, and we don't have to love everybody anymore. It's very sad, but I mean, he was able to articulate.
That's why Hashem kept us so small.
Yeah, maybe. But the thing of it is that I'm telling you, it's all mamash ma'aser son. It's all ma'aser son. It's so completely wrong. People think in the time of the Bayis Sheni, there was like four groups. There was the Tzadikim, there was the Asiyonim, there was the Prushim. 3 groups. Is there a fourth one? The Tzadikim. Yeah. My friend was a historian, Matis Cantor, who wrote a book on Jewish history, specialist in that time. Figured out, looked through Midrashim and Gemaras and Yerushalmis, and figures out that there was actually 77 groups going on at that time, and they all hated each other. It wasn't. Not just hated each other. I mean, they tried to kill Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Threw a sword through. That's Adhechan Advar Magim. We look at it now. It killed Zechariah Navi. It was just absurd. How and for what? Differences between us, which are all imaginary anyway. What you do have is maybe perhaps different levels of observance. Don't even see that. That's not even. I can even live with that. But talk about high levels of observance. Just maybe different politics or something. So it's just. So it's really the opposite of what's going on. Is like the opposite of She'er Yisrael. So we're going to take the Tomer Devorah like to its fullest extent. Is that there are no such things. Meaning maybe there's divisions, but I can still feel a pain. When you start hearing things like, why did that person why was that person in that terrorist attack? That's because they belong to this part. I mean, we've all learned, even in the last few years, we've all learned that nobody's exempt. Nobody's exempt, and not only is nobody exempt, but it's very possible that Group A can suffer because of the averes of Group B. So we better get out there and take care of it, or from their own averes. That's also possible. So that's something. Can't lose the love that we should have. That's the She'er's Nechlosa. That's what we want Hakadosh Baruch Hu to do.
That's what we should teach our children also.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Do we?
I think that's the problem. It's one of the problems.
I'll end with my bushel that I've said over 100 times. And if you go to, if you buy tickets and you go with your wife to the Philharmonic and everybody's playing the same instrument, the same tune, so you want your money back. If everybody's playing a different instrument to a little bit of a different tune, and everybody's doing their thing, so that's when it's a Philharmonic. The Philharmonic is such, So if you go to the Kosel Friday night, you don't hear a niggin, you hear a Philharmonic. You hear the Karlbach, the guys over here, and the Belzer guys over there, and the Vishlitzer guys here, and the what do they call the Parat Yosef, and the noise is gorgeous, right? Like just the noise, just the blend. And the way it is that if you see it here in Shul, like sometimes if if somebody's talking and somebody else is talking, it's impossible to talk while somebody else is talking, impossible to listen to two people. If somebody's singing, so if somebody else sings, it's okay. If 100 people sing, it's even better. even if they can't sing. It's an amazing thing. The same people that they go in front of the oven, oh my gosh, not again. he's gonna die. Like, but at the same time, in the back, it sounds okay. Like, it all comes together nice. That's the
The back sounds even better.
yeah, outside. That's the Philharmonic phenomenon, which I'd like to propose to everybody, that there is such a thing as seeing everybody as a harmony, and all the differences are imaginary anyway. It's hard to find anything which is. Does anybody know the difference? I don't want to get involved in politics, so nobody knows the differences between these.
But that only works if there's a menatzer, there's a conductor.
Oh, very good. So who's the conductor? So, yes. I tell you, we need leadership. I'm not saying
It's Tzaddik, yeah, it's all Tzaddik.
we need leadership. But who's the leadership? I mean, I'll tell you, you're the leadership. Anybody who understands, anybody who has the insight to understand that this is what's really wrong today, Ladati. This is more than anything else. This is what's really wrong, and the more, I mean, everybody's pointing this up here. This is what's really wrong. Historically, this is what's called it. So if you have this insight, then you're a leader. What does it mean that you're a leader? Do what you can do. Not everybody's a great orator, like Martin Luther King is going to talk about their dreams. But everybody can do something. You can be nice to somebody. You can create an organization. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. Here, take good examples. Hatzalah. You know what? You check their yarmulke before you say something. Everybody understands on some level of pikuach nefesh, they're helping the other one. So why only on that level? Why do they have to be dying of bleeding before we can understand? Like, hey, why can't we understand them when they're talking with a different accent? Okay, so we're going to finish the rest on Thursday.
It wasn't announced before the year.
You know what, Doran? Maybe let me, because I'll tell you already on the camera. I just want to say this thing. We are making a thing. I'm sorry, Doran. We're making a Malav Malka, the Shul, KSY. Making a Malav Malka on Monsey Shabbos. And this is really for everybody who is a member of the Shul, who davens in the Shul, who's not a member, who comes to Shiurim. Everybody is here. Obviously, there are many people, I'd say hundreds of people, without meaning to be boastful, that call me daily and ask me shilas. There's people with all kinds of things. So in order for us to exist as a Kehillah, here in Ramat Bet Shemesh, we've learned that we need to come together and to rally up support from a political level, from a PR level, and for ourselves. It has to come together. So I want to urge anybody who has feels that they're getting any benefit at all from the shul, the Rav, whatever part of this Kehillah might be getting any benefit from the coffee. There's all kinds of things that we get to give me the support and come on Monsey Shabbos, take an hour, and it'll be extremely helpful to us. It'll be I can't even explain how important it will be on so many levels, and I have the fullest appreciation to anybody who takes the hour out of the time. Bring your wife, come. There'll be sushi, I heard. It's a wonderful thing. So please join us Saturday night, 8 o'clock. Parshas Bashalach, 8 o'clock at Havas Tzion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.